The wind tore across the barren plains, carrying with it the bitter sting of dust and the lonely echo of a town's church bell miles away. In the hollow of an abandoned barn, where moonlight spilled through broken slats and dust drifted like ghosts, a young woman lay bound at the wrists. Her face was streaked with dirt and tears, her lips cracked from thirst. She lifted her head with what little strength remained and hissed a plea that came out more like a curse than a surrender. "Just kill me. Do it now." Her voice cracked, half fury, half despair. The words hung in the silence of that hollow space, heavy enough to still the air. She tugged at her ropes until her wrists burned, her eyes blazing with a strange defiance. She did not beg for mercy. She demanded an end. The creak of boots broke the quiet. A shadow filled the doorway, tall against the bleeding light of the setting sun. A man stepped inside, hat pulled low, rifle balanced lazily in one hand. He looked at her not with pity, but with the wary calm of a man used to finding trouble where he least wanted it. "What are you doing in my brother's barn?" His voice was flat, unhurried, as though he'd asked about the weather. Her glare burned through tears. "End it. Please. You'd be doing me a kindness." He paused, lowering the rifle, studying her like a riddle scratched into stone. Then he sighed and tipped his hat back, revealing lines carved deep from sun and grief. "Miss, I shoot cattle, not broken hearts. You'll have to live through whatever storm dragged you here." She twisted against the ropes. "You don't understand. They'll come for me. They always do. And anyone near me pays the price." Instead of answering, he knelt and cut the bindings with his hunting knife. Her wrists sprang free, raw and trembling. He handed her a dented tin canteen, and she drank like a soul pulled from Hell's Gate. When she lowered it, her hands still shook. "You should have left me. Maybe." He leaned against a beam, voice dry. "But I've done enough leaving in my life." She turned away, ashamed of her own weakness, yet unable to stop the sob that escaped. He said nothing, only let the silence fill the barn until the wind outside seemed louder than both their breaths. Later, in the shadow of his small cabin, she sat near the fire he built from dry cedar, warming hands still marked by rope. The flames painted her face in fleeting gold, softening the hardness etched there. He set a plate of beans and bread before her without a word. She ate slowly, each bite pulling her back into the world she swore she didn't want. He watched her with the patience of a man who knew the weight of silence better than words. His own story sat heavy in his chest, but he held it there, locked away like the photograph of his late wife he kept in the drawer by his bed. "You ain't from around here," he said finally. No, she stared into the fire. "I used to be someone. Daughter of a rancher. Promised a good life. But all that burned. And what's left isn't worth saving." He leaned forward, the chair creaking beneath him. "Funny thing. Everyone I ever buried thought the same right before the end." Her laugh came bitter. "Then maybe I should be buried too." He set his plate aside and looked at her fully now, his eyes dark, unflinching. "No. You're sitting here. That means you're not done yet." The crack of hooves carried across the night. She stiffened instantly, bowl dropping from her hands. The rancher didn't need to ask why. He went to the window and drew the curtain back with 2 fingers. Out on the horizon, black shapes moved against the pale moon, slow and deliberate. "Riders. They found me," she whispered, voice breaking. His jaw tightened. He reached for his rifle, checked the chamber, then set it by the door. "Then we'll make sure they don't find you easy." She caught his arm. "You don't understand. If they know I'm here, they'll burn your cabin, kill you, take everything." "Miss," he said, shaking her grip loose with surprising gentleness, "this cabin's already taken most everything from me. One more fight won't change that." He moved quickly, shuttering the lanterns, dousing the flames until only embers glowed. The cabin sank into near darkness, the air thick with smoke and fear. He motioned her toward the back, where shadows hid the small cot pushed against the wall. "Stay low. Don't move unless I tell you." She obeyed, though every fiber of her body screamed to run. The riders drew closer, their voices low, laughter cutting through the wind. The sound of spurs and shifting leather carried through the walls like thunder. One rider dismounted, boots crunching over dry earth. The knock on the door was slow, deliberate, like a wolf scratching before it tears the wood. The rancher stood still, breathing steady, rifle ready but hidden behind his leg. The rider's voice called out, deep and mocking. "Evenin'. Lost a stray out this way. Pretty little thing. You seen her?" The woman covered her mouth, holding her breath so tight her lungs burned. She shut her eyes, listening to her heart pound louder than the voices outside. The rancher's reply came slow, calm, every word measured. "Ain't seen a soul worth looking at in weeks." The rider chuckled, but the sound was edged with suspicion. "That so? Shame. Thought I saw smoke from a fire." The rancher didn't flinch. "Cold nights. Even a dead man lights a fire to keep the wolves off." A pause. Boots shifted. Then the creak of leather as the rider mounted again. The horses trotted away, fading into the night. But their laughter lingered, a promise of return. Inside, the cabin was silent but with a ragged sound of her breathing. She opened her eyes to find the rancher watching her, face unreadable. "They'll come back," she whispered. "Let 'em." He set the rifle against the wall, his voice iron-hard. "You've got a choice, miss. Keep running, keep begging for death, or stay alive long enough to make it matter." Her throat tightened. For the first time since the barn, her tears weren't only of fear. She wiped her face roughly and whispered, "Why are you helping me?" He turned away, shoulders heavy beneath his worn coat. "Maybe because once, someone should have helped me." The fire cracked softly, throwing sparks into the dark. She sat there, caught between despair and a faint, stubborn ember of hope she didn't ask for. And outside, in the emptiness of the plains, the sound of distant gunfire broke the night. She froze, staring at the door. "They've found us." The first shot shattered the stillness, splintering the window frame and showering the floor with shards. The rancher shoved her down behind the overturned table as another bullet whistled through the cabin wall, lodging into the timber with a heavy thud. Outside, hoofs thundered, circling like vultures above a carcass. "Stay down," he barked, his voice low but steady. Her hands shook, yet something inside her steeled. She had asked for death, begged for it, but now, as bullets cracked and the smell of gunpowder drifted into the room, she realized she wanted to live. The rancher moved with a calm that came only from years of facing down trouble. He raised his rifle, fired once, then twice, each shot punctuated by the sharp recoil against his shoulder. Screams carried from the darkness, followed by curses hurled into the night. She clutched the small pistol he had pushed toward her, the weight foreign in her palm. The fire from the hearth illuminated his profile as he reloaded, the flicker of light catching the scar that ran along his jaw, a reminder of the lives he had already fought through. The attackers regrouped, their voices carrying through the wind. "Bring her out, and maybe we'll let you live." She pressed her back against the wall, whispering, "They won't stop. He'll never stop." The rancher glanced at her, eyes narrowed but not unkind. "Then we don't give him the chance." The door rattled under the force of a shoulder. Wood splintered. He fired point-blank through the panel, sending the outlaw crashing back with a cry. More boots pounded forward. Lanterns flared outside, throwing jagged shadows against the walls. Her breath came in shallow bursts. She forced her trembling hands to still, raised the pistol, and aimed at the window where another outlaw climbed through. The shot cracked, jerking her arm back, and the intruder tumbled to the ground in a heap. Shock rippled through her, but the rancher gave her the briefest nod, as if to say survival had no room for hesitation. The cabin became a storm of noise, wood cracking, glass shattering, shouts echoing with the ring of steel and gunfire. She moved when he moved, crouching low, reloading clumsily but with determination. A voice rose above the chaos, sharp and mocking. "Darlin', you can't hide from me." She froze. That voice belonged to the man she had once been promised to, the outlaw who had claimed her like property. He stepped into the glow of the lanterns outside, scarred face twisted into a grin. His men fell back, forming a half-circle as he advanced. The rancher stood in the doorway, rifle raised. The outlaw laughed. "Step aside, old man. She's mine." "Not tonight," the rancher growled. The standoff stretched, tension coiled tight. Then the outlaw lunged forward, firing. The rancher answered, the clash of bullets tearing the night. One shot grazed the rancher's arm, blood seeping through his sleeve, but he didn't falter. He pressed forward, each movement deliberate, controlled. The outlaw advanced too, his revolver blazing, until he was close enough for her to see the madness in his eyes. He pointed his weapon at her, lips curling in triumph. "You can run, you can hide, but you'll never belong to anyone else." Something inside her broke free. She rose from cover, pistol steady now, her voice raw with fury. "I belong to no one." The shot rang out before she realized she had pulled the trigger. The outlaw staggered, shock flickering across his face before he collapsed onto the dirt, gun slipping from his hand. His men faltered, eyes wide, then scattered into the dark, leaving their leader's body behind. Silence returned, broken only by the labored breaths of the two who remained standing. The rancher lowered his rifle, wincing at the wound in his arm, but his gaze stayed fixed on her. She still held the pistol raised, her body trembling, until the weight of what she had done crashed down on her. The gun slipped from her fingers. He stepped forward, catching her as her knees buckled. "Easy now. You did what you had to." Tears blurred her vision, but they weren't the same tears she had shed in the barn. These were heavy with release, with something she hadn't dared to feel in weeks, relief. She pressed her forehead against his shoulder, sobbing quietly as the dawn began to creep across the horizon. They buried the outlaw in the dirt just beyond the cabin, the rancher saying no words over the grave. The man had chosen his path, and it had ended in violence, like so many before him. She stood beside the mound of earth, her face pale but resolute. Back inside, he wrapped his arm with a strip of cloth torn from his shirt. She sat across from him, the fire rekindled, casting warmth across their weary faces. For a long while, neither spoke. Then she whispered, "I thought dying would be easier than living. I thought it was the only way to escape him." He met her gaze, his eyes tired yet unyielding. "Death's easy. Living, that takes fight. And you've got more of that in you than you think." She swallowed hard, her throat tight. "Why help me? You could have let them take me, saved yourself the trouble." He looked into the fire, the flames reflected in his eyes. "Because once, I needed someone to help me too. No one did." Silence hung heavy, but not empty. Something had shifted between them, not love, not yet, but the fragile bond of two souls who had carried too much loss. When the first light of morning spilled across the plains, painting the horizon gold, she stepped out onto the porch. The land stretched endless before her, wild and unforgiving, but it no longer felt like a sentence. It felt like possibility. The rancher joined her, leaning on the post, his hat pulled low. He winced at the ache in his arm but kept his eyes fixed on the distance. "World don't hand out second chances easy. But it looks like we got one." She breathed deeply, the air sharp and clean, and for the first time in months, she did not wish for death. She wished for tomorrow. And in the quiet between them, the wind carried no threat, only the promise of what might come.